Hello,
Hey,
hello. What's going on?
hey, how are you, Brian?
I'm here. Good. Everything's been smooth.
Awesome. Good to hear it. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Hi, Melanie. And Angela. Y'all are on one screen this time. Oh, you're muted.
We are two different people.
Melanie in mirror motion. How was the walk today?
Oh, it was gorgeous. Beautiful time to be down by the river today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I wound up going out around 2:00. And I walked out the front door with these three, and I've got one on my lap right now. I was like, you want to help me with the call? Yeah. But we did like, I don't know, less than a mile or so. And I've been recovering from this stomach crud, whatever it's been. I was in bed, like I slept, like I woke up, slept kind of thing, like 10 hours last night. And my watch was like, you get a sleep score of 50 out of 100. So it wasn't like restful rest. But it's continuing to get better. I took some Pepto-Bismol. And yeah, it was funny because I read the notice. Usually, like if you get a juice that is from a restaurant or whatever, a cafe, it's not pasteurized. So there's a note on it that says that it's not pasteurized, and like, just kind of like a warning, like if you have a weakened immune system. Well, like I had a few of these little things when I was in Florida, no issue. But I don't know what it was. I mean, this one I got here locally. I didn't check a date. I just figured there's something, it must be good. I must be good. I have no idea.
Right.
But as the day went on, I was like, ooh, I really don't feel great.
Well, you look good.
Thank you.
And what's the one on your lap? What's that one's name?
This is Indigo.
Oh, we saw one today
Oh, did you?
at the river. Yep, yes. We saw every kind of dog today, but we
Right.
did see one of those. The King
Oh,
Charles.
my
Yes.
So cool. Was it tricolor like her?
Yes, one lady was holding it.
Oh, so cute. I saw a couple while I was in Florida. I was like, I miss mine. I miss my domesticated beasts.
Yeah. We saw several corgis today.
Oh, I love those. We had talked about that. Did y'all catch, by the way, in the email,
Yes.
hot cocoa?
Yeah.
I was gonna make one, but and then birthday girl's down here at my feet. Hi, baby. Here, you wanna come say hi? Because I am gonna put her down. Because y'all are warm.
Oh, did you tell her you just saw
Say
the
hi.
other one? Did you send her a picture when you were with Lisa?
All right.
Yes.
Well, I
she-
say let's go ahead and dive in. We've got mindset and nutrition today. Whoop, whoop. And just a little check-in in terms of takeaways and homework from last week.
Mhm.
I know the homework that we had talked about was, what do you do when it gets hard? What's your game plan, kind of thing? And what are your thoughts around that? And then what are any lingering takeaways from last week?
One of the things I wanted to put out there, whether it's appropriate at this moment or not, but I thought about it, with all of this and rereading and reading. And I'm sort of like saying I'm rebranding myself. And I thought, I'm really rebranding. I'm rebranding, this part of me. And so it's part of my new rebranding, to use the buzzwords of today, if you will. So I just thought I'd share that.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
And when it gets hard for me, I find it better to talk to people, like people I trust, that understand, that I wouldn't feel embarrassed or anything to say, listen, I'm struggling, that's what I would do.
Nice. That's cool. Very cool. I would venture to guess that presupposes that they knew of, or you're educating them on as well, of like, this is a goal of mine. This is something that I'm working on,
Oh, yes.
Can you have my back?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do, obviously Melanie's one of them, but, I do have a group of friends who we all go through this cycle, and some of them I met by, going through, I don't know if you've heard of the Max program or anything like that, but different programs like, or the gym, if you will, and we kind of gone through these things together and we've all tried everything or whatever, but, successful in a lot of them, but, then you end up in this place again. And so we always share with each other what we're doing so we can support each other. And that means, okay, can you go for a walk today? Can we do this? Let's sign up for this event, certain things like that. So yes, absolutely.
Very cool. Hi, Debbie. Welcome. We're just going through any takeaways and or answers to the homework question that we had from last week of what do you do when it gets hard? So feel free to chime in. Anything come up for you, Brian? I know that you were catching the replay.
Yeah, so I did catch the replay. And I when I saw that part, it was like the usual, the obvious is typically journaling. I know listening to a vast majority of it, I usually do kind of crack open the book and just kind of get into that zone. I'll play some jazz music. I'm a lo-fi guy, so something to kind of mellow me out a little bit. I don't know if Marcus told you, but I introduced him to 1984, Miami 1984. It's a Pandora playlist that we just got. It's almost, it kind of gives like Miami Vice type vibes, but it's a universal play because you can play it just in a very calm. It kind of like is a soothing, like you feel like you're going down the road in Miami, like just playing some music, like kind of techno. But
and
I try.
It's like a lo-fi, or you said techno?
It's a little bit more upbeat, but it's not. It's non-vocal. Most of the songs you found on there are non-vocal. So, the Pandora one was kind of hot. Like he was like, "What did you want?" Like it was a couple weeks ago. He said, "What did you want to hear?" And I said, "Let's do 80s." And he was like, "So we have 80s R&B, or do you want to do 1984, like Miami 1984?" I was like, "Let's try Miami 1984," and it works. So I've just kind of been going with that. But yeah, on as far as the go-to, I guess, I mean, the asking myself questions and loving myself, that was an eye-opener because I'm still asking those questions and still thinking about those from time to time, from the other assignment, as well as like I've sent those questions to other people to make them think. But the self-guided part of like when it's low, I had somebody at one time that was that person I kind of could confide in. Our friendship, our relationship is kind of diminished. So it's been kind of a restart of getting kind of people who can kind of be in that space of like, hey, I need to talk. Is this an open, is this a safe space? Because I've noticed most times I'm usually the safe space, but a lot of people don't. And if anybody else has experienced this, by all means, chime in. I've had people who are who look at me as a safe space, but the safe space gets promoted to a trauma dump, and I'm usually not prepared for it in some instances. So it's almost like some people have to learn with me. If you come to me, it's like, at least tell me in advance, had the time. By the time they already started talking, I'm like, they're knee deep into it. I can't even stop it now. So yeah, that's just having people who are respectful of space and time, I think, has been my biggest thing lately.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Like, hey, can I get a just kind of an overarching, like, how deep or how heavy is this that
Right.
I'd like to
Yeah.
unload right now? Let me check my resource level to see where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah, that's real.
So it's the joys of being an empath.
Mm-hmm. Fully agree. How about you, Debbie? Any takeaways or thoughts around the homework from last week?
Okay, couldn't unmute myself, sorry. I think I'm still working on that, trying to be gentler with myself.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I guess I think I've always had high expectations of myself, and I do that for others around me, but I've softened with others and not myself. So trying to balance that out a little bit. And Brian, I can relate to what you're talking about, because I am too usually the person people will come to, but I don't reciprocate when I need something. So trying to find that person or people that, you know, when I'm having a rough day, I can say, hey, you know, I need to chat a minute, you know. So working through all of that still, that's my process at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool. That's progress, right? Like, okay, we've identified places to improve on now.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, very cool. Oh, how I cannot make my notifications pop right now. Let's go. Do not disturb. Okay. So, in diving into mindset and around nutrition, the next page of the book that we were going to dive into is titled Indulge in Your Health. And my question is, how can you indulge in your health? And as I was wrapping my brain around how I wanted to open this up and where I wanted to go tonight, I was reading a book last week while I was soaking up the vitamin D on the beach. And it was talking about, and I like to get into like deep philosophical, like out there books sometimes. And it was talking about how people at one point were striving to figure out, and this was like, you know, we're talking thousands of years ago, but trying to figure out how not to go hungry. Not to say that there's not still people today, but you know, how many of us today don't have to struggle to figure out where our next meal is coming from. So like, we're super blessed that today, you know, we're not facing starvation, but yet, you know, like that was something that thousands of years ago people were trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we not starve? And nowadays, like, how big is it that, you know, I'm not even a big TV watcher, but I imagine that there, you know, ads, this and that around, you know, how much of an emphasis or focus is there on weight loss and, you know, essentially starvation when, like, for how long we tried to figure out how not to do that, right? And now it's like, it's just interesting to see going from starving to abundance. At one point in time, the human body was seen as attractive if it had some extra on it, because it was a sign of wealth, right? It was a sign of abundance. And now we're back to starving, kind of. But it's just interesting how, like, in each one of those events, it's a chase, right? It's a chase to figure out from where to where. And I love coming at this from just indulge in your health, indulging in taking good care of yourself and what feels good, and, you know, that kind of perspective, if you will. So I did want to encourage a few notes that I made here. One is not necessarily following any fad diet, just like broad, overarching nutritional principles here to start with. Not necessarily going after a fad diet. I'd give like the most weight to Whole30. I think that that's a good one. But by and large, like these like paleo, keto, you know, these ones that are nixing out basically an entire food group, which each macronutrient helps one another to break each other down. So if you cut one out, then you're not necessarily getting all of the nutrients from what you are taking in. So balance is key. One of the things that, okay, yes, you can come up. To come on.
Hello. Hi.
It's our third birthday, right?
Yep, she turned 3 on Friday. The little princess. Distraction. Let's
Squirrel.
see. Yes, a squirrel, cavalier. So yeah, not necessarily declaring one food group as evil, right? But aiming for balance with each of the 3 main ones, the macronutrients. So, and I broke this down into the book, just high level, which was 50% carbs, 25% protein, 25% fat. That's a good basis point to start from. And that is something that a MyFitnessPal or another food tracker can help you with. And I recommend that kind of an app only for the educational use. So very often people have gotten on apps like that and get very obsessive about the specific numbers. Oh my gosh, like I had 100 more calories today than it said that I was supposed to have. And at the end of the day, like this app is not a registered dietitian that knows every single in and out of your life, lifestyle, etc., your health, and gave you probably some arbitrary number based on, you know, the goal of losing weight and here's where you're at today. I think very commonly with MyFitnessPal, like especially for females, it tells you 1200 calories a day, which is not a lot of food. If you separate that into 3 meals, you've got 400 calories a meal. So, and if you add movement into there, then you're burning more calories as well. And so, you know, for more specifics, or if someone is working within a condition, you know, or potential condition, I always recommend out to a nutritionist or a registered dietitian. But for general nutritional information, personal trainer, our trainers at the Well are able to help with that. So, one of my pet peeves in the whole carbs being evil thing is that, well, you know, I cut out pasta, I cut out rice, I cut out carbs, and I lost like 5 pounds in a week. And the science within that is the fact that carbs equals carbohydrates. So a lot of carbs is water. So a lot of what was just lost, quote unquote, was water weight, which upon eating carbs again, you will probably retain back. So, and you'll see this with like individuals that are training for a competition, a show, fitness show. you can tell I'm not in that camp. Um, Physique, those kinds of things. Like they cut carbs and they cut hydration like crazy in the last, like, I don't know if it's days, if it's weeks leading up to it, so that they are more cut and defined. And it is a state of like dehydration. And they will also tell you about how dang cranky that they get. So carbs aren't the secret. Cutting carbs isn't necessarily the answer. Each of the three help each other to break down. Yes, I say otherwise, balance and not counting or obsessing has been most helpful to most people. And that's ruling out like any hormonal imbalances. Like we've had clients start working with us, and it's been more on the female side where, we're coming up against like, okay, we're doing all the right things, but nothing, the scale's not going in the right direction. The body composition isn't going in the right direction. That's when questions can start to come up of like, okay, is there something deeper going on health wise? And that is a good time to, work on making sure that you have a doctor situation set up with, a doctor relationship set up with. I'm always recommending getting an annual physical, getting your blood work annually so that you know what's going on inside of here. Like within my family history, on my dad's side, I've got high blood pressure. And my dad had like 4 heart attacks by the time he was 50. And high cholesterol and all of that kind of stuff. Well, a couple of years ago, my cholesterol was elevated and you couldn't tell it from the outside. So I really value going in and getting at least that information, right? Like doctors aren't necessarily the God of all knowledge and information, but they are an informational source that we can, get information from and filter through all of the other things. So it's good to have those. And then 80-20 rule. So balance is key here, right? A friend of mine posted the other day, I think they were eating brownies and said something about
Was
it.
that Melanie?
Melanie, were you eating brownies?
I'm not telling.
And like, oh, this is why I'm doing the Kickstart Your Wellness challenge. And my response to that was like, I know that this individual does not do that, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Like that's
Right.
not really balanced. So in my book, yeah, like that was a gift, indulge in it, enjoy it. I mean, you're probably not going to eat the whole pan because then you'd be sick. But like have a serving, put it away. A friend of mine for my birthday back in November, and I keep forgetting that I have this in the freezer, made me a chocolate cake. And, from scratch, etc. Got like real nice chocolate and everything. It's called Queen of Sheba or something like that. And it was really good. And then she'd had me over for lunch. And then she proceeded to tell me that the rest of the cake was mine. And I laughed because I was like, what am I going to do with this whole cake? It's in my freezer. And at some point, like I vacuum sealed it. I did it so it won't get freezer burnt. I'll probably lob a piece of it off and then figure out how to reseal it and keep it in there for every so often. I'm not against chocolate cake, but I don't want it every night. It's a
Right.
balance thing for me. So creating balance and figuring out what that means to you is the most important. So it's like, what does balance mean to you? It's based on priorities, right? Like if you're in a phase of your health, your fitness, and your wellness where you're like, you know, it would be healthy and helpful for me to lose a couple of pounds. Okay. Then putting a delayed gratification or a higher percentage of healthy versus unhealthy, right, would be more appropriate than an 80-20, which is like, kind of more so like a maintenance rule. So it's not completely saying, no, you can never have this. This is bad, right? Which triggers that in our mind of, well, now I want it. How come you said I can't have it? That's all I'm
Yeah.
thinking about right now. I'm still thinking about it. And then, and that happens so often with those restrictive diets is, yes, I'm on the bandwagon. I'm doing great every day for like a month. And then all of a sudden, what happens when you want spaghetti? And typically the thought process that comes with that is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Well, I had this, I'm just gonna
Right. Yep.
throw it all.
Yep.
So approaching it with more of that like balanced sustainability mindset, and putting you in the power seat of managing your priorities. So instead of it being a you can't have that, it's a I don't want this right now because I want that easier movement. Fit into the clothes that I prefer. Fill in the blank. So use a tracking app like MyFitnessPal to educate yourself, but don't live and die by counting. That's also been helpful for some people in some ways where like avocado. I remember working with someone once, they weren't aware that avocado really didn't have any protein in it. But they thought they were being healthy by putting it in their salad. And yeah, I mean, avocados are healthy, right? They've got healthy fat. But what they thought they were doing wasn't in fact what they were doing. And if they had been, utilizing an app like that to help them identify that, then they would have caught it. So that's an example of that there. So I love it for the education. And also, fun fact, if you weren't privy to this, is in looking at nutrition labels. So a couple of years ago, I did a challenge where it was no added sugar for, I forget how long, maybe it was 21 days, maybe it was a month or something like that, but no added sugar. And the challenge in this was specifically when purchasing things like sauces, pasta sauce, dipping sauces, salad dressings, and how high sugar content was on the ingredient list and as added sugar, not even just like natural sugar found in the fruits and vegetables and whatnot that was in there. And so when you're looking at an ingredient list, like, yeah, you've got nutrition facts, and I'll use this as an example. You guys can see what this was my dinner because my stomach has been blocked. They're complete cookies. A couple of years ago, I completely burnt myself out from protein bars. So like, if I don't feel like eating something, or if I know I want something that's just like balanced and also it's kind of like a treat to me, I'll do one of these guys. This is not an example of not having added sugars because it does. But where was I going to go with that is, okay, so yeah, on the actual label, right? Like you'll see sugars underneath of carbohydrates. So we've got carbs, we've got dietary fiber, sugars, and then added sugars, including added sugars. So it's got 12 grams of sugar in one serving, which this package was 2 servings. So one serving was half a cookie. Another thing to pay attention to is like understanding serving sizes. Not necessarily that you have to like have a food scale and like weigh everything out, but just understanding like, oh, okay, that's roughly about like 4 ounces, that kind of thing. But and then paying attention to things like this, because one might think, oh, that's a nice size cookie. It's one serving. It looks bigger on the screen.
We're
Kind
both
of.
sitting here thinking, I'll split that with you if you'll
Yeah,
split with
sure.
me.
Who's your friend?
They're really good. They come in all kinds of flavors. And in one whole cookie, it's got 16 grams of protein.
Oh.
So where was I going to go with this? Total sugars in the entire cookie is 25 grams. And the added sugars within that was 19 grams. So
Wow.
6 grams of natural sugars. So, I mean, yeah, if you're going for not added sugar, this wouldn't be a solution. But I needed something that was going to sit well on my stomach. This also has 10 grams of fiber in the entire cookie, which is pretty dang good. And then the other part of this that I was going to talk about is when you look at the ingredient list. So the way that they organize ingredient lists is what is, I believe it's heaviest by volume to lightest by volume. So what's the biggest, quote unquote, what's the biggest main ingredient in this? And then subsequently smaller and smaller and smaller. So here we've got enriched wheat flour, and then it breaks down wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine, riboflavin, some vitamins. There we go. So enriched wheat flour, and then protein blend, which this one was made up of vital wheat gluten, pea protein, and rice protein. And then so wheat flour, protein blend, and then semi-sweet chocolate chips. So the ingredients keep getting like smaller as you go down the list. So if sugar's higher on the list, if it's just like straight sugar, so like we've got cane sugar and invert sugar that are a couple after the semi-sweet chocolate chips. So it's not like, the first one on the list.
Right. Just to interrupt you, and I'll have to find it. Maybe I'll share it with you if I find it. How obviously once we get involved in something, it starts coming across your feed because it's knowledge of, coming into your social media. And it was a list, which was very, very long, of the different names that represent sugar. Like all the different names that sugar, because you read that and you think, oh, and you stop reading because you say, oh, it's not that much. But it repeats itself several times in because it just goes under a different name, sugar. So
Yeah.
I thought that was very eye-opening.
That's cool. And I love that it's showing up in your feed.
They're watching you.
I know. I'm like, and I've got the iPhone where it's like, it says ask app not to track, or, allow. And I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't care. Just,
Yeah.
Sure. Show me more of whatever I think up.
Right.
In the end, I'm in control. It's all good. And hi, Logan. I didn't say hi to you. I was mid thought earlier. Good to see you. So, all right. So yeah, labels and the amounts. Moving into everyday tips to stay on top of your health game. So there's a whole bunch in here. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to kind of open that page. It's page 24 in the book. Breaking it down, mindset, movement, and nutrition. My recommendation for this is print it out, keep it handy, and choose like 1 to 3 to implement, say, for a week. And start with ones that are exciting to you or like the easiest to start. So, of course, I have adopt a positive mindset as number one. This is a wonderful experience that you're embarking on, sure to bring wonder and excitement. When you focus your mind on one positive thing, your mind will then go to work on finding supporting details to that thought, creating a snowball of positivity. Use this momentum to your advantage and have fun with it. So, an action item, maybe attributed to that, would be, where can I find fun today? Or where can I find joy today? I was working last Monday. I found this little like outdoor cafe. And I was working, right? Like I was making phone calls and doing some work for the studios. And I'm on the phone with this one gal. I've never talked with her before. She's a prospective client. And I totally got derailed by a butterfly. And I was embarrassed because I totally just like space cadetted. And so I proceeded to like explain to her what had just happened. I'm like, I'm sorry, this butterfly, what happened was I'm in Florida right now and I'm sitting outside and there's this butterfly and he was hanging around. Like I'll have to find a way to send it in the replay email. He hung around like for another 30 minutes after I got off the phone. So I managed to take a video of it and I did send it to her. The joy. Who
There
knew?
you go. You found it.
So, another one, drink water. Start with a cup of water first thing whenever you're waking up in the morning. That can sometimes be an easy one, especially in the wintertime. Like if you wake up and you've got like the dry throat, dry mouth. I know because like humidity's lower in the wintertime. But yeah, have a glass set next to your bathroom sink and chug a glass of water upon waking up. And then of course, continue to drink water throughout the day. And I added some information here, why. The first reason is hydration. Did you know that if you're chronically dehydrated, you can gain up to 10 pounds a year? Your metabolism can't function properly if you're dehydrated. So fatigued, joints and muscles can't withstand the workouts that you're doing or exercise that you're doing. So just, it's more than just like the blanket statement of, well, it's healthy to be hydrated. That actually does break down into like tangible benefits or deterrents, if you will. And then also very often when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. So that is another thing there. Another example, split meals from 2 to 3 today to 4 to 5 per day with smaller portions. So this is one of those where this is why I said pick ones that are most exciting to you or easiest to start with, because that might not be one that's easiest to start with. It might be exciting. I know for me, like whenever I was doing that, I don't do that currently. But when I was doing that, I was so excited because I got to eat like every 4 hours or something like that. Like it was a little midday break. It was a very busy time in my life. It was one of those times where that's how I got burnt out on protein bars. Cause like I was just working and I was here and I was there. And like where I'm at right now, like I like to take the time to make a meal in the evening and have it fresh. And I'll still do like leftovers and stuff like that. But especially being single personally right now, it's like sometimes I don't feel like being super fancy. Sometimes I do. Had a really great baked sweet potato last night with dinner. So it's just figuring out what works for you. If, where I was going to go with that is I've had the time in my life where I have meal prepped on a Sunday, made a whole bunch of stuff for the week. And like, that was my game plan. And where my game plan is at right now is I like to take the time to slow down and cook my food during the week as I can and have it fresh and decide, on the fly on the day of like what I want to eat. So yeah. Squeeze in lemon for flavor also helps with digestion. This is a good one. Have your last meal at least 2 hours before bed. It allows your body to exert energy to digest the food so that when you're ready to sleep, your body can focus on the rest and recovery and repair process versus digestion. Honor your planned rest days. So this is the nice thing about having and keeping to a schedule, right? Is like, and again, it's flexible, it's fluid, you can change it. But I've seen a lot of people fall into the habit of like, oh my gosh, if I don't do it today, if I don't move today, if I don't work out today, then I'm gonna lose momentum, or I'm not gonna get as good results. And there's a whole lot of things going on there, like, and one of which is like, if we don't give our bodies the opportunity to rest and recover, then we will be more susceptible to injury. So, and also we can be putting our bodies in an inflammatory state, and just burning the candle at both ends doesn't work sustainably. So if you're in this for sustainability, you're in the right place. And you don't need to do it every single day. Not to say that a walk on a planned rest day is a bad thing. All depends on what level of intensity that walk is for you. Okay. So, me walking the dogs for a little bit less than a mile today was enough for me. And today was a planned workout day. I got up this morning and I was like, I really don't think I'm going to do a whole bunch of core work with my stomach feeling like this. That sounds not cool. So I'm going to take my rest day today, and then I'm going to see how I feel tomorrow and see about doing my strength workout tomorrow.
There you go.
So we'll find out tomorrow. But I did take them for a walk, which is also a little bit more strenuous to me than just walking on my own. Two of them pull like crazy. Beloved Cavaliers. So lots of variables. Whole food versus
Basically,
processed.
I have to go from my recovery days right now. I'm in recovery mode right now. Every
What was
day.
that, Angela?
I'm in recovery mode every day right now.
Recovery mode every day. What's
Yes.
I missed
I haven't been doing the exercise. I've just been in recovery. So I'm gonna have to like add the other side of this. But that's why I'm here.
yeah.
Brian's agreeing with me.
Oh, my trainer and I, it's ironic because he and I personally are best friends, but even worse when I have to do certain sessions tomorrow. Like I said, so it's funny because I wasn't in this Zoom last week, but to give context, oddly enough, Super Bowl game was on.
Yes.
He's a Philly fan.
Oh.
I knew them losing was not going to be good for me.
Oh.
And I felt every bit of it when I went in to work with him Monday. And it was even worse when I got the dailies that I work on at home.
Oh.
So that's why I can easily nod my head. And it's, I've been quiet. I've been listening to a lot of it, like even down to something as small as like one day I got on it, like he did the monthly check-in for the scale. And I almost wanted to throw the scale.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, because it's just one of those things. But
Right.
It's just knowing your body, learning how to process it. So I'm still a work in progress with that. But yeah, that's my input on that whole part.
Now the
appreciate
question is, were you a Chiefs fan?
Oddly enough, so I'm a Carolina fan.
Okay.
So I don't really have a dog in the fight. I didn't have one in this case. The place I was at, it was kind of
You're
like
an
a neutral
innocent
ground.
bystander.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was still by, trial by fire type of deal.
That's hilarious.
I think unless you are a lifelong Philly fan, you were definitely a Chiefs fan that day.
It's a good way to that's the simplest yet cleanest way to describe it.
Yes, yeah.
Like I said,
is different. Yeah.
one of the guys who came in, he had on like the hat, the
Yeah.
jersey, everything. And every time they scored, he was dancing. When they were losing, he was not happy. And I was like, I'm just here to watch the game. By the time it was near the end, he was like, I'm going home. All right, I was nice talking to him. I was like, wow, really mad. But I mean, hey, it's the way it goes. But
yeah.
Mindset and working out, I definitely understand it. I actually have a question, because this is something that is kind of my brick wall. I'll be 100% real about it. Me and greens do not get along. And when I say we don't get along, it's in the sense of I've just never found like a sweet spot or a happy medium that is like, all right, this is something that I can eat and genuinely enjoy on a regular basis. So trying to find like that starting point. What is like I've done, I mean, I don't know, it's almost like peas. I don't know if you count that. It's like certain things that I'm like, I can go with, but then when you get to like lettuce, celery, certain things, I'm like, it's literally been like a long-term thing from when I was a kid. It's like, it'll sit on the plate and I'm like, nope.
Just like not appealing, doesn't taste good to you. Like
not doesn't taste good. And I think now, especially the point that I've hit at my age now, it's not even like unwillingness to bend, because I'm open to it. But on the flip side, it's more so texture. Everything now has turned into like a texture hit of like, if I try this, I'm like, I tried it and it wasn't like some random, I think, what was it? It was some some sandwich that was made that instead of it having bread, it was like egg. As the egg acted as bread. And as soon as I tasted, I was like, nah, not working. Sorry. I tried, but no.
Yeah.
So I know that's like a loaded question of how to address that, but
yeah, I'm trying to think at what angle I would go first. It reminds me of, so like, for an example, I was raised with a very basic food, very basic American food, like macaroni and cheese and frozen vegetables, which actually I still do those today. But my parents, for example, would boil Brussels sprouts. And I kid you not, I never wanted to eat another Brussels sprout again in my life until somebody roasted them in the oven. Drizzled some olive oil, maybe some balsamic vinegar or some garlic on them, and then gave them that like little crispiness. And it's like, wow, that's actually really, really good. So I lead with that example of, maybe you just haven't found ways that appeal to you, especially that's the example that came up for me whenever you're talking about texture.
right.
That was a mixture between texture and taste.
Yeah.
Do you like potatoes?
Yes.
One of the things I've been doing is, because I went for years without eating white potatoes because I was, brainwashed with the whole carb white potato kind of thing. And now I understand that that's not the real issue. I've learned more about nutrition, as of these past couple of years. And what I have found is I can take and make a baked potato, or if you boil them, roast them, whatever, because I roast them and stuff, is you can even cook your greens, whatever they are, whether it's spinach or kale or collard greens or whatever, because those, Mal and I grew up on all those and we love those, is cook it the way you need to cook it, even if it's a frozen packet, because they're doing great things with frozen food. And you can take that say a baked potato, scoop it out, and just put it in like a food processor or a blender or the NutriBullet or whatever like that, and just let it all blend together.
Yeah.
And the texture is still going to be that potato. It's going to be like it's going to be like whipped potatoes basically at that point.
Right.
And it has your greens in there, and also putting greens in a smoothie.
Okay.
That's what I've done.
Okay.
Anything
That's an option. I'm open, like, and I want to be clear when I say this. I'm very open-minded to options on this. It's not like I'm setting what I eat and it's
yeah.
I know I have to find to do something now, because I mean, I just flipped the page of just hitting 40. So it's like, so it's moved a lot different with a lot of things where it's like, all right, the body's like, you've been using that metabolism excuse for like over 15 years. What's going on? Like, what's the real issue? So now it's just kind of getting the habits back in place that work for becoming better with just how to take care of myself. So, because the workout part, I'm good. I mean, I've gotten that. That's been like probably the habit that I didn't realize I could do until I started doing it. And Arby can tell you, like, when she did the initial training with me, I was like, I'm sitting there. I sat in the car for like 10, 15 minutes because I was like, I ain't did this much movement ever. So it's like, to adjust from that and being where I'm at now, like, 3 or 4 months later, it's like I see that progress, but now it's also like, all right, where can I go with the food part? So between smoothies, mixing, I'm open to it, because I'm trying, and I'm trying to avoid the dreaded, what is it, Bloom, all that. I don't even want to do those options because I've read on it, but then I'm also like, nothing I've heard or seen just looks, because everything's about research, but also knowing you as a person. Like, it's kind of like finding that happy medium. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm learning with it along the way.
Right.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll weigh in on the like not loving vegetables. One thing that I've done, I don't always like cooked vegetables. I kind of prefer raw, like carrots and broccoli and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I'll make like a little dish, like a pre-dinner dish with ranch, and just eat my raw vegetables. And then at dinner I can have, the vegetables aren't even on the plate with everything else, and everything else just looks better.
Right. Got you.
But I
Okay.
got my vegetables in.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Logan. Yeah. Cool. So I've got meal prep tips in here. Planning ahead. Some ideas. You can roast a whole chicken. Add a mix of your favorite veggies, kale, peppers, cabbage, radish, spices, into several mason jars or Tupperware for the week. You can throw it on the skillet for a fresh saute, or squeeze a lemon and make it a salad. Those are some ideas. Bake some sweet potatoes, grill some veggies. That's one of my favorites. And one tip here too, like, let's say if you're invited to a dinner, event, festival, etc., some kind of a situation where there's going to be food and it doesn't necessarily, either you don't know or it's just not going to support your goals. A few helpful solutions. One, don't go hungry. In other words, like, eat what you've had beforehand, like what you've pre-planned to eat, and then go to the event satiated. If you really feel awkward, you can always walk around with a plate with like 1 or 2 things on it or something, Otherwise, at least your hunger level is covered, right? Consider explaining to them your journey and the lifestyle changes that you're making. More often than not, if it's friend or relative, they can be supportive. So, and if all else fails, refer back to the other page and remember the 80-20 rule. Right. There are what to eat suggestions in here. Lists from greens and veggies to proteins, carbs, fats, fruits, even herbs and spices. Some of these on here, like, oh yeah, I haven't done anything with dill seed. I don't think I've ever done anything with dill seed. That's not true. I have made dill dip. Sweeteners, drinks, snacks, other things. And then things to avoid. So fake sugars and all of their various names.
Names, yeah. Yeah.
Saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, ACE K, acesulfame potassium. They're chemically altered so that like they taste sweet, but they trick our body in the sense that like they're non-caloric. Like, so we think that we're taking something in, but we're not actually taking something in, and our body is like waiting for that caloric hit and sugar hit, and it never comes. So oftentimes it's not the chemical itself that is causing weight gain. It is that whole physiological process that's going to cause us to go and grab something else, probably something sweet, to satiate that lack of sugar. Okay. So next, high fructose corn syrup, which is in a lot of sugary barbecue sauces, marinades, and dressings. Like if you look at a marinade or a sauce and like, again, like thinking about the label, right? Like the biggest amount ingredients, I'm going to figure out a better way to say that, is at the top of the list. Then, you know, if your oils are at the top of the list, you know, is that necessarily what you want to be working with? Because those are going to be more calorically dense versus something that starts with like a vinegar or a Greek yogurt. It was a couple of years ago, I switched from like your traditional dressings to Bolthouse Farms. They have a number of yogurt dressings. They're usually in the next to the produce.
Yeah.
And they have everything from ranch to cucumber ranch to blue cheese, which I've never had blue cheese, but Caesar. There's a number of other ones. I've had honey mustard of theirs before. In my opinion, they've done a great job. So, trans fats, refined sugars and flours, things to pay attention to and just know like, hey, if health and nutrition and fitness and wellness is your goal, then it would probably be better if these things were in that 20%. Okay. So again, like at the end of the day, you're in the power seat. Choose wisely. That was like a cross between like me thinking of like the Nike Just Do It and like Morpheus telling you what, you know, which pill you want to take.
I was thinking of Yoda.
I'll take Yoda. Yoda. There's a little grocery list in here. So I have basically like a 7-day kickstart, and then I made this little cute grocery list. If that is something that is appealing to you, you can of course like print that page out, but it separates things into the categories. You'll notice, and maybe you already did notice this about the grocery stores, but the perimeter of the grocery store is basically the essential and also the healthiest.
Yeah.
Yep. Brian's like, yep.
I
you know,
I got a quick training on that with a friend of mine. His wife, we went into Kroger, and she could see I had anxiety walking into the store, and she was like, okay, this is how you pretty much shop. And I was like, this is probably the simplest thing that no one ever explained until they broke it down. So when I realized like the outer is better and they put everything on the inner aisles like that, I was like, I never would have gave that a thought.
mhm.
You and my husband, okay?
Listen, man law 101, go where we need to go, get what we need, and leave.
Yeah. It's not go and get what you need to get, it's go and get what you want to get.
Yeah. We got a destined list, 5
Yep.
things. We get those 5 things and we are out the door.
And hopefully don't succumb to the, oh, that looks good right there.
Oh no, my husband does that.
Yeah, see everything at the end of the store, like the candy section, I'm good. Like most times, if anything, I'm gonna get caught by, it'll be which I've gotten way better with now. They'll throw the sodas at the end, and it's like, oh, here we go. This is how you get, especially because it's cold.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
nah, but otherwise, nah. I usually try to be on a mission and be out. Like whenever I have to do a water run, I'll go get the 2 cases of water out the door.
Nice. So I have the grocery list created as such, the shopping list. Kind of the last little chunk here. I went into food cravings and also conquering them. So have you ever craved certain foods and felt that somehow this was a bad reflection on you? Unhealthy food cravings do require an extra measure of self-control if we're going to conquer them, but be encouraged. These cravings are merely your body's way of signaling that something is out of whack, and that something can be physical, hormonal, neurochemical, emotional, or even spiritual. And unfortunately, it can then turn into a cycle, feeling cruddy and then eating cruddy and then feeling worse. And then that can perpetuate, right? So one of the main emotional motivators that can send you running for the fridge is stress. When you hold on to stress and worries, you can become depressed. All of these emotions can lead to overeating as you turn to food for comfort. So it's basically going into a question mark of, are you turning to food for comfort? And if so, what are those food choices? Right. So not necessarily like digging at the root to start with, right? Like I have a friend, their thing is chocolate ice cream. And, like if they're feeling down or even if they're feeling fine, like they like their chocolate ice cream. And, but however, they want to change some of their body composition and how they're feeling. Like they do value health and fitness. So they're kind of feeling a bit of a gap between where they're at and where they, want to be. And so, okay, well, can we replace the pint of chocolate ice cream with, a couple of pieces of a dark chocolate bar or a cup of hot cocoa in the wintertime? Or, what have you. And then, just like kind of keep going at it from there versus like going to the root and saying like, okay, well, you're not happy or you are happy and you're using it for celebration. How do we change blah, 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 blah. Like, well, first, let's just make it a little bit less hefty. How do we make it more of a positive, because if you're finishing a tub of ice cream and feeling the effects of that afterwards, chances are that it's not an uplifting experience overall, right? So how do we start to like reverse that a little bit? And then we can start looking at it from that other angle. So conquering your cravings, portion and pack healthy snacks like fruit, nuts, single serving, resealable bags, stuff like that. If I'm getting a snack in the afternoon, like I'll grab a handful, like basically a serving of tortilla chips and salsa, and I'll put them in a bowl and I'll take them over with me versus like taking the whole bag kind of thing. Keep water with you at all times. Think of a healthier alternative. For instance, instead of a bowl of ice cream, this is so funny, it was part of my example in here, try a scoop of frozen yogurt. Instead of potato chips and some French onion dip, try baked chips and fresh salsa. These alternatives can be a step in the right direction and can help bridge between where you're at or where you've been and where you want to be with your nutrition. Another one is control your portions. Keep track of your cravings. This can be a key in determining the underlying emotions such as stress or boredom that may be causing you to turn to food at certain times of the day, week, or month. And distract yourself. Take a brisk walk. It can not only help to get your mind off of your craving, but it will also release stress and burn off some calories in the process. Calling a friend is also calorie and guilt-free and a much healthier source of comfort than a tub of Ben & Jerry's.
Well.
Up for debate.
Mhm. What if you took your friend to Ben and Jerry's?
I plead the fifth. So last page there, I've got just like some possible reasons behind emotional eating. It's been a lot of emotion, like within our culture, within our families, has been wrapped up into eating. So, eat something, it'll make you feel better. Clean your plate or you can't leave the table. If you're good, you'll get dessert. If you don't eat everything on your plate, then you're being rude to the person who prepared the meal.
Yeah.
So these are just things to catch ourselves with. Goes back to like the mindfulness and the self-awareness that we've been talking about, of like, just kind of be mindful and stop yourself and say, like, why am I doing this? What voice? Where's this coming from? And is this what I want to do? So, and with that, there is a 7-day Kickstart worksheet as well. So this is basically like pairing everything together. So I wanted to put everything on one page, and you can pick and choose, right? You can put the days on here. I just put like day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way up to day 7. But I put like 6 key habits that you could track. And, if it's, hey, you know what, I don't need to log my meals. That's like the second one on here. Then keep that one out. This wasn't meant to be something that would be potentially overwhelming, but more so of like an encouragement, and that can give you an opportunity to see where your strengths are and maybe where your not so strengths are. So you can print it out. It's page 35 in the book, and it's got, for example, water intake, meals logged, active movement, sleep score on a 1 to 10, mood score on a 1 to 10, and then overall stress level on a 1 to 10. So, and then it's got some everyday tips, but especially for those of us who are to-do list crosser offers, right? Like that, I saw your like that sensation of marking something as complete. That little bit of gratification there. Tap into that and use this. I'm a big fan of any tool that can help us to get to where we're going. in a way that is, I was going to say helpful, but then I just used that word, but that's effective and that's sustainable. So this gets us started. Maybe we don't have to do it every week. Maybe we do it for a couple of weeks. Play around with it and get to know yourself and how you work. So that is that. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts about what we went over today or in general?
Very good, very thorough.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a lot of information, but helpful. When I say a lot of information, it was helpful information. Like
Right.
it's really resourceful to like kind of get an idea and not making it as complicated or as overwhelming as it can be from afar. Like I had this conversation with someone on a different level, but explaining it as like, instead of zooming in, zoom out and just look at everything on a more simpler form.
Mhm.
And it makes a lot more sense. So it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. Good. That's really great to hear. Thank you. All right, y'all.
All right.
Debbie, did you have something? Did you just come off of mute? Or am I just calling you out?
You're just calling me out.
Debbie.
Debbie.
I agree. Everything is helpful. It's, a lot of it you knew, but it's good to be reminded of. It's good to have it simplified, a quick place to go and kind of like reestablish yourself when you get off base.
Mhm.
So thank you for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll share with you guys this replay, so you'll have access to all three. I'm gonna figure out what I want to do with this moving forward. So this was the first time that I did the live calls along with it, and I'm gonna put together a little survey and would love to just like get some feedback, personally from you guys. In terms of like, what do you think? How was it? What was good? What wasn't as helpful? Just like that kind of stuff. If you'll take a couple of minutes just to let me know. And yeah, I'll figure out what I'm doing with it in the future. And I'll also probably be sharing something within, if not this week, then the following week, but just something to help keep you guys going. So I definitely I've loved being in this energy with you guys. And yeah, I get excited about the stories that come out of it, right? Like the, success and, Brian, like for you, for instance, like seeing you come from that first day that I met you and what you've been doing with Mark and everything, like that stuff gets me like high,
Mhm.
So I appreciate you guys and I'm here for support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Definitely. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
night.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
All right.